Okay, I just rebooted. Let's see if tell them to reacquire the show tonight. What you got going on over there, Solana?
I'm just talking to them in our web chat, not the, I got out of the Spreaker, and so I'm waiting for you to redo it.
I've already rebooted. I just need confirmation how muffled it sounds.
Okay.
Right, you are K28. Reboot.
All right, so you've redone it, and let's see. I actually have this bookmarked in Safari, and let's check it out. It's not the same one, is it?
Yes, we rebooted.
Oh.
What?
I'm just checking it out. Let's see how it sounds. Yes, we've rebooted. Now it's...
I just need our audience to chime in.
A little better.
Audience?
Yeah?
Yes, we. I'm just waiting.
That's acceptable.
Is that what they're saying now?
We can move forward with this, I think.
Okay.
No, I haven't heard from them.
Well, chat in there. Engage the chat audience.
Yeah, Bev says it sounds a lot better. Let's just go with this.
Okay, here's what I need to do. I'm trying to redo the cues for the commercial breaks and everything, so give me a moment. And
right, to chat. Well, if you can hear us and you're a little confused and you normally go to Spreaker, please let me invite you to come over to spaceboyuniverse.com, look at our menu, click on SBU chat, and you can come chat with us live on our site till we get this other thing sort of, figured out. You'll have some fun there. You can post animated GIFs, links. You can change the color of your font. You can, you can post pictures. Just keep it PG-13 and please don't harass or bully anyone or we will dispose of you. Because we can. Anyway, of course, you're also welcome to join us on Spreaker once we get that back up and running. Spaceboy's just... he's got that back up and running. We're just trying to align the breaks and the cues that we do between every half hour, so it works when this gets rebroadcasted later on PAUK network, because we don't want to mess that formula up. And should I go ahead into my content with the
that gives
pre-show
me the
content?
Opportunity to continue to fix what's
the new stuff.
The background.
Well, here's some things I found out right before the show because that's when I did my little news lookup, right? So Amazon is reportedly going to open a grocery store chain, and this is separate from Whole Foods. They bought Whole Foods. Now, I was like, whatever. There's nothing in Whole Foods I want, and even if there was, I don't think we could afford to shop there. So what they're going to do is launch a new chain of grocery stores with dozens of locations centered around major U.S. cities. Well, we're a major U.S. city, and if we don't see one here, I'm going to be upset. Of course, it's come from the Wall Street Journal that's reporting this, and they're not exactly what I call reliable. But, whatever. So these stores are going to be different from Whole Foods. They're going to be, get this, Spaceboy, cashier-less. Go convenience stores. It's to better penetrate their traditional grocery market that's been dominated by Albertsons, Kroger's, Publix, and Walmart. So they're going to acquire smaller grocery chains. I guess they're just going to eat them up.
Maybe they'll eat up Kroger.
The store will sell more mainstream items to customers who can't find the things they're looking for at Whole Foods, because Whole Foods is a very different mindset and very different products in that store. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like frou-frou food, but they're that's upscale, organic focused option, higher prices, make it less competitive with your standard grocery store chain. So they don't know if this new grocery store is going to be on that level. I don't think so, but Amazon plans to invest in customer service and pickup capabilities to compete with things like curbside, which everybody's doing now,
or having it picked up and delivered.
Yes, by people like you. So, sorry, I have to take a swig. It is unbearably warm in here. So here's something that I wonder if you have an opinion on this, because I bet you do. We don't watch the Oscars because we don't have local broadcast TV. I'm sure there's a way we could do it, but I'm not interested. But here's this article. Why the Oscars and Steven Spielberg will struggle to push Netflix out. Well, I was like, well, what does Netflix have to do with the Oscars? Like I say, I didn't see him. Well, Spielberg wants to get the rules changed to impact how Netflix movies qualify for Academy Awards. I didn't know they qualified for Academy Awards. They just had a very successful Oscar campaign for some movie called Roma, which I've never heard of, and that's fine.
It did well.
Nominated for Best Picture, and it won Best Director, Alfonso Cuarón. And it was tied with some other nominations, but while it didn't win the ultimate prize, it had a good showing. And it showed that the voters who vote for the winners showed a willingness to embrace Netflix content. Well, that's got people like Steven Spielberg really upset. And you know what I say? Boo-hoo.
The thing is that basically you have always had programming that's on television, the chance to win Emmys. That's their category, TV, and then you have movies that go to the cinema, win Academy Awards. But the thing is that there's been a few Netflix movies where they've been on Netflix, but they've also put some of them in select theaters.
That I didn't know.
To qualify them, I guess, to be
that's one way to get around it,
Academy Award winning.
But I imagine they have limited release.
True, they probably would have limited release,
but still, it's a theater. It got by the rules, So not everybody is thrilled about their embracing. Lots of film industry professionals feel threatened by Netflix distribution model. Well, boo-hoo! This is the way of the world. This is the way things are. They're saying there's some controversial decisions being made as the Academy members push back against evolving times, punishing Roma for the fact it came out on streaming rather than in a theater. None other than Spielberg is at the front of the anti-Netflix crusade. So he's eager to support changing the rules. So to Netflix getting in there, Roma, it was playing in theaters for only 3 weeks before it hit Netflix. So it wasn't like it wasn't in theaters at all. It was just like blink and you miss it,
Right.
So, but the problem...
it's also not uncommon for motion picture the big guys to put in a movie at the last part of the end of the year so it qualifies to be an acceptance for an Academy Award. Dino might be able to tell us a little bit more about this because I believe he's a voter that gets to vote on that.
Or he might not be able to talk about it because of some rules. Anyway, they're saying the best thing would be for Spielberg just to get with the times and start putting content on Netflix.
I think that Spielberg and the Academy should worry about how to acquire watchers of the Academy Awards because, quite frankly, this ties into all the stuff that you hate that I watch about Star Wars.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I know.
And how middle America, the actors and actresses their mindset do not match up with
well,
what
that's
middle
not
America.
really on point with this saying, but I will give you a format for that.
Well,
at some point.
This is where I'm going to kick into my nerd part of the show. Star Trek Discovery has been renewed for season 3, which is surprising. And a lot of people thought that it might have been dead, but as we move towards the future of CBS programming on demand, we have to look forward to a new Patrick Stewart television series What the hell are you doing over there?
I'm trying to fan myself with this piece of paper, and I'm leaning away from the mic so you don't hear this paper flapping.
Okay, I was like...
And I'm also not paying 100%.
Should I get you a cot so you can lie down over there?
I'm sorry, I'm hot.
Well, that's very braggadocious of you.
Would you shut up? Just do your little rant that you've done 500 times. And
Patrick Stewart is returning as Jean-Luc Picard in a new television series that I don't think it's yet to be named yet. I guess they're just still calling it the Jean-Luc Picard series. This series will consist of 10 episodes. It will take place approximately 20 years after the TNG finale, which puts it around 2389, and revolve around the destruction of Romulus. The destruction of Romulus is now official prime timeline canon now. Oh. The series itself, you have to be standing up to actually comment over there, Solana. The series itself also in the prime timeline with the Calvin timeline running parallel to it. As of right now, it will not intertwine. And then plus it goes on, this article goes on to talk about the casting is a young cast, interesting characters. There will be a hologram in this particular show. There is a 19-year-old Romulan that's going to be on board this ship with Picard, and from what I've read, it sounds like they're going to tap into Picard's love of archaeology, so that should be for a fun show. And and so on other news, as it ties into Disney is in talks to buy out Warner's stake in Hulu. So as they try to move forward,
I thought that was AT&T's stake.
No, they're trying.
I saw the exact same headline you just said, but it said AT&T. That's crazy. What?
Nothing. Go back to sleep over there. Anyway, so this ties into Disney's push forward to do the Disney Plus programming that they're out to do, which will bring a lot of content related to Star Wars and MCU and all that good stuff. Of course, one would only hope that the MCU doesn't go up in flames because of this new thing with Brie Larson that's out there. Which, incidentally, Captain Marvel will be next Friday that comes out. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that all goes down. But I've heard that Kevin Feige is creating 2 endings to the new Endgame movie that's going to be coming out. I'm wondering if it's in relation to the information that's coming out about Captain Marvel and Brie Larson and how she's handled everything with the press, and so we can only see how that. You know what? Let's bring back Solana in, and because
I forget how interesting our ceiling is.
Because nobody wants to hear me talk; they just want to hear you talk.
No, I just wasn't prepared. You don't usually have something, so I wasn't prepared for you to have something to talk about. But you go ahead and do whatever, but I just have a feeling we'll be talking about this again because we're going to go see. I guess at some point we'll see the movie, right?
How many times have you seen Marvel-related stuff on YouTube?
Because I'm with you, lots.
Yeah, there's lots of information out there, and I need to get on this space vlogs video thing.
Yes, you've got to have an outlet before you explode into a million pieces.
No, I just need something that. Okay, that's unusual.
What did you just see?
My computer screens are off over there.
Did your computer die?
I don't.
Which computer is it? The taller one?
The shorter one. Anyway, go on. You've got content that you can talk about.
Now I'm freaked out. It's not on an automatic, thing. Okay. Have you heard about the Momo thing?
Yes,
challenge?
This ugly-looking girl thing. That yes, it's the latest
all right.
in a series of pie tods and.
It's a viral hoax, basically, right?
Yes.
So YouTube is demonetizing all videos about Momo because YouTube's got to be our mom and our dad, right? So what it means is you've got an ad running on a video that has this Momo challenge content. They're pulling advertisers so you can't make money off of it. CBS, ABC, CNN, Fox, and local affiliate channels have uploaded segments on Momo, so they're part of the problem. They keep, things stirred up by talking about it. But it's a viral hoax about a creepy sculpture by someone's name who I can't pronounce, and I'm very sorry, and it's alleged to promote self-harm. So these videos are not up for monetization, meaning to make money from ads that would run on them. I don't ever see ads on YouTube because I pay for YouTube. So.
Well, the thing is that this thing looks like the girl from The Ring,
but that image that you're talking about, that's been around for a long time on the internet. That really creepy image. I don't know if they just went and appropriated it for this hoax. So it's a violation of YouTube's content guidelines for advertising. So it actually, if you go to one of these, if you go to one of these channels that has a video, it'll stop you and say the following content has been identified by the YouTube community as inappropriate or offensive to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Then you have to click a button that says I understand and wish to proceed. It's just, again, people that aren't as educated or up on things, or say gullible, and this is what we're going to be talking about later tonight, right? A 12-year-old girl had committed suicide after participating in the Momo challenge in Indonesia. The alleged challenge involved kids texting a strange number on WhatsApp, then receive instructions to harm themselves. But multiple outlets have reported the challenge is an urban legend. So this is kind of like, what it reminds me of is the creepypasta thing. But it's a hoax.
It reminds me of the Slender Man thing.
Yes, it's right on that kind of level of false, but still gets talked about, and some people, take it too far. But so YouTube's trying to do their thing, and there's a reason I bring this up, and I will refer to it later. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about really briefly before we go to break, is this last headline, because it will slot into tonight's content. China did something last year, and I think you better pay attention. And it's all part, you could say, well, you're just paranoid, but, well, that's the name of the game tonight. China banned millions of people with poor social credit from transportation in 2018. Now, when we see the word credit, we are thinking credit cards, but no, they're talking about social credit. And I was like, well, what is that? So they banned people from buying plane or train tickets 23 million times in 2018 because these people's social credit scores were too low. We're like, what is a social credit score? It's part of their system over in China. The government...
For not being a good
Chinese citizen, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
So they employ a public blacklist of citizens who have been found guilty of crimes in court and punishes them partly by limiting their ability to buy transportation tickets. Social credit scores are supposed to help prevent annoying behavior on public transportation. Now, they've got policies over there in place to monitor individuals and punish bad behavior, so your social ranking in the government's eyes might be lowered if you evade taxes, scam other people, make fake ads, take up extra seats on the train. I just want you to pay attention to this model of denying you based on...
It's very George Orwell.
Because they could easily, any government could easily take this and take it to another extreme,
And if you'd watched the Orville, there was an interesting episode that ties into this very similar situation. But anyway, I'll leave you at that.
K28 is asking if Houston is still foggy. Oh my God, K28, let me tell you, Houston is about to be covered in mold and mildew. It will not stop being damp, foggy, misty, raining. My friend posted a video of her pasture, which is her horses. It is just like a scummy lake. It will not stop being damp. And then, what is this, March? And then we're going into, what's April? April showers bring May flowers. This may not let up till May or June, theoretically. And it's supposed to get cold again. And it was 72 degrees today. And it's just like, it's not raining. it's throwing pollen around, and then it's raining.
Kay also asked about our AC. Basically, it's not working. I've called
So we're so angsty.
called the guy that put it in. I haven't received a call back. I tried to replace the breaker in our breaker box, thinking that might be the issue. That didn't fix the issue. It could be the capacitor on the AC unit.
The
So
flux capacitor.
we will, in good time, figure out what it is before 100-degree weather here in Houston.
Yeah, so that's another thing. It's misty, foggy, rainy, wet, damp, and then when it doesn't do it, it's overcast, and then the pollen's going around. So I've had a headache for 4 days, and nothing.
And she's not referring to me.
No, I've barely seen you. I mean, so it's just been really super irritating with the weather.
That she hasn't seen me yet. It's very super irritating. That
I think I had a dream about you. I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, because I will refer back to those two news items a little later in.
Well, we got about 10 minutes before our break, and
10 minutes?
I wanted to yeah, because 10 minutes late start.
Oh, it is. I'm looking at the.
We still got to make up a.
I'm sorry. I was looking at the time on the computer.
It's a 3-hour show.
Okay, so theoretically we're behind, but we got to keep it in the slot.
We're behind because of the time.
But you go back later and cut it to where it fits.
No need to cut. It just.
You just restarted it.
I restarted it, and I'm looking at a timer on my end.
Well, I'm messed up because I'm looking. You'll have to keep me on track.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about who out there remembers this movie with Tom Cruise called The Edge of Tomorrow, and Emily Blunt is in this one too. It looks like Warner Brothers has greenlighted the sequel to this movie to go forward. It's kind of like time travel. It's kind of a war movie at the same time, where these aliens come down, and they have the ability to when they die, go back to the beginning of when it all kind of started. And so, Tom Cruise, and Emily Blunt will be probably reprising the roles and coming back to the sequel to this. It's a good movie, and I'm kind of sad about it because Bill Paxton was in the first one. Unfortunately, he would not be in the second one, and he's passed on. But so
I just hope Luke Perry's okay.
Oh yeah, he had the.
He's 52, man.
And I can't think of the lady's name. Ramona, who played Ramona on Who's the Boss, passed away too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she just passed away. So,
man,
some sad news there, but
what's that thing you used to watch? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Did you watch that?
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
They're saying the 7th season may be the last, but 7th season is perfectly respectable for a quote-unquote TV show.
Well, I'd also heard from Kevin Voss on, I can't think of his program on the YouTube. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about, Eric Voss?
Maybe?
Does a lot of the Marvel news information.
Yeah.
Anyway, where was I going with this? He was reporting. What was he reporting? I got all excited that I remember Eric's name, but I can't remember what I was going with this. Something about him reporting.
Sorry, my headache is coming back. It's not you. It's just sort of spaced out here. I took Advil. I don't know. It had to do with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Marvel.
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me.
Sorry. We're breaking down due to the heat.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The heat's not bothering me. It's the cadence of the show that started off has thrown me off. But anyway, he was talking about how, like the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and this goes to tie back into the Disney Plus programming, where the Disney Plus programming shows, like for Marvel, will tie directly back into the Marvel universe, whereas Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and shows like Daredevil and Monica Jones, or Jessica Jones, and
Monica's her sister.
So yeah, those shows will not be a part of the canon, if you will. So yeah, anything that was on Netflix, you could kiss all that goodbye, which is kind of a shame
Kiss
because
it all goodbye.
The guy that played Daredevil really had done a fabulous job of doing that job. So it'll be sad that he will not be reprising his role. He was better than Batfleck.
Yeah, anything's got to be better than Batfleck. Batfleck, yes.
So when he played Daredevil, God, and man, that's where he met Jessica, whatever his wife's name now is. Played Alias. Anyway, I try to say these things to you, and I know this kind of glosses over you. But anyway,
well, I didn't see the show. Bassist Peter Tork from the Monkees passed away, age 77. Just we're losing people left and right.
So hopefully.
This is Patrick Scott Spore, and you're listening to Space Boy Universe.
It's a little thing, Patrick. Hope he's listening. I get tons of email from him. But anyway, let's go and take this break. We're ready to take it. Lord knows we are. And when we come back, we'll dive into our subject matter.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lotta.
This is author Gordon Root. You are listening to the Space Boy Universe.
This is K28, and I'm listening to Space Boy Universe.
Hi, y'all. This is Lori calling from Texas, and I love listening to Space Boy Universe.
Hey, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to Space Boy Universe.
This is Wendy. I'm listening to Space Boy Universe. Hey, y'all. This is Lorelai DeLille. I listen to Space Boy Universe. Don't you? Tell your mom and them I said hi.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Sir Roddy.
All right, tonight we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories. Not necessarily any specific one, but more in the line of talking about, explaining what the makeup, the breakdown of a conspiracy theory, and kind of give some history there of when the conspiracy theory idea all started. And so at this point, I'm going to hand over the mic to Sirlana because apparently she's ready to talk. So here we go.
Apologize. I felt compelled for several weeks to try to talk about this, but I did not know how to approach it. How in the world do we stretch this out to 3 hours or even 2 hours? But once I started down this road, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more probably than I have time to talk about. So mainly this is a backlash from me personally with sites like YouTube saying they're going to start filtering out content that's perceived as conspiracy theory to do their part in trying to stamp out fake news and misinformation. Well, that got my goat, whatever goat there's let to give, and I could tell you were moving to do that, so that's why we're having this show.
I've got one job left on this show.
It's stupid, but I'm going to do it. You can put that on my grave. So, let me tell you what the show is going to be and what it's not, even though he did tell you pretty much in a good summary. This show is not like a top 10 conspiracy theories, although I can certainly do that if you wish, and I have some links saved for some more interesting ones. And if there's time and we want to get to it, I'll do that. But let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to get elbow deep into this subject. It's like, what is the term? What does it mean? What are the connotations? Where did it come from? And then we're going to really break it down. Turns out there's a lot of theories about conspiracy theory. We can identify the popular ones, and we can see what their impact is, if any, on society. Are they something worth worrying about, or is it just us trying to work out what happened during an event or something? So we're also going to discuss the various social media companies, what they're doing when it comes to this kind of content that's unfounded and speculative. What sites like YouTube feel they need to do to shield us from it by kicking this content down and filtering it out. Are they trying to protect us, or are they actually using this as excuse for censorship? Now, I read a lot of book chapters and reviewed some academic articles and journals, so you don't have to, because my gosh, did that become a morass of $5 and $10 words. So, if we run out of time, if we have a lot of time at the end and we've discussed everything we can, I'll let Spaceboy take over with his Marvel fan theories. So, let's start this out with a quote by Eve Kosofsky-Sedgwick, where she said, "Paranoia is an attempt to avoid bad surprises." I like that quote. And what got me motivated to this is the fact that if you have a belief and it's labeled as a conspiracy theory, there's this terrible connotation to the word conspiracy theory. And that's what upsets me, and I'm going to try to set the record straight, hopefully. I'm not saying you got to believe what I say, but it's my personal journey, and I'll get into it. So let's talk about the actual meaning of the term conspiracy theory, semantics. The basic definition for conspiracy theory I got from Merriam-Webster's dictionary online that says, quote, "a theory that explains an event or a set of circumstances as the result of a secret plot by usually powerful conspirator." Right there, I think they're kind of skewing it to one way. Like, how do they know they're powerful, But so that definition didn't sit well with me, so I went to plainolddictionary.com and I got 3 results. A theory that rejects standard explanation for an event, and instead credits a covert group or organization with carrying out a secret plot. I think that's more close to what we would accept. They say it's also a belief that a particular unexplained event was caused by a covert group, or the idea that many important political events or economic and social trends are the products of deceptive plots that are largely unknown to the general public. That's kind of okay with that one too. So it's that first one that bothers me by Merriam-Webster. Usually powerful conspirator. I'm like, well, how did they arrive at that? I'm just curious. And of course, the word theory itself has up to 6 meanings. But the most relevant here is theory is a guess or a conjecture, something untested, and that's what a conspiracy is, a guess or a conjecture. I'm going to have trouble speaking, I can tell. Now let's talk about the origin of the word. Where did the concept or the words conspiracy theory come from? Well, I'm sure it will come as no surprise to any of you. The term came into being during or just after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And it was deliberate. And I do believe that was an actual conspiracy to get rid of the president, and it was plotted from within our own government. So there's a conspiracy right there. That's my personal belief. Now that could be, I could get labeled a wingnut for that, and we'll talk about why. So when I was doing this research, there's one thing that kept coming up, and a lot of sites kept referencing this one book, and I had sort of access to it through my workplace, and the book is called Conspiracy Theory in America. So it seems to be one of the authoritative sources for this topic. What this book said was the CIA, one of the world's leading experts on psychological warfare, created this term to deflect accusations that officials at the highest levels of American government were complicit in Kennedy's murder. And I tend to believe that. And this book also points out that during this whole thing, the Warren Commission never said the term conspiracy theory, but instead they repeatedly said things like issue of conspiracy or questions of conspiracy. They were trying to determine if Kennedy's shooter, Lee Harvey Oswald, had been acting on his own or he had help. So later the CIA pushed for this more compact phrasing of conspiracy theory for all theories that rejected the official account that Kennedy had been killed by a lone gunman. So if you think it was a lone gunman, you're right on board with what the government wants you to think, I guess, is how I'm interpreting that. The CIA's campaign to popularize the term conspiracy theory and make conspiracy belief a target of ridicule and hostility must be credited, unfortunately, with being one of the most successful propaganda initiatives of all time. So the reason we have the term and the reason you get to be a subject of ridicule for believing in a conspiracy theory is you can thank the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America. It was deployed to have a certain connotation, which means, you're a wingnut, by the CIA technocrats who are trained to break people psychologically, destroy relationships, tear apart governments, and stir up old hatred. So I would take everything with a grain of salt that they have to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our own CIA coined the term and planted the seeds of doubt. So that is where it comes from. Yet, we've had this term since Kennedy, which is the 60s, and we've had this connotation with it since then, and we're going to find out why it stuck. I don't know that the average American believes in the lone gunman theory. Do you believe in the lone gunman theory, Spaceboy, or do you not even really think much about it? That Oswald shot it, and talked about the magic
referring
bullet.
to the man on the grassy knoll. Yes.
You think there were more than one shooter?
I think there's, with every good mystery, there's room for a possible. I could believe that. for example, with the subject matter we did this last week on the flat Earth thing, unbeknownst to you, I've been doing a lot of more research and reading onto the subject matter, and there's stuff that it makes you go,
Yeah, oh, absolutely, of course. Kudos for you for keeping on a topic, researching it. That's very good.
I don't need you to pat my head and rub my belly.
But you like it. I'm saying hi to Gene in Spreaker Chat. Gene is over in Spreaker Chat. Gene, of course, everyone else is over in the website chat. So maybe Kay, go over there and say hi or something. So this means the CIA was successful with their goal for making the term and creating the janky connotation it has. They were able to do, in doing that, they could dismiss all theories that made the lone gunman story stick. And this is what I read, and I thought, this is so freaking true. People have given up on learning the truth about what happened in this particular situation, but I think people have given up on the truth, period, or they think they know the truth, they have some kind of personal truth, and they're wrong, but they don't care to go deeper or check. That's my opinion.
Well, you brought up JFK. Documents were supposed to be released this past year, and unfortunately, not all the documents were released regarding the JFK assassination, which goes back into the mystery part again, where people like, okay, it only perpetuates the conspiracy theory by not providing.
They colluded everything. They colluded to have it done. They colluded all the evidence and the theories. How can you believe anything they said about how it happened? I'm talking about the official government story. How can you believe any of it? And I wasn't even alive then. And that's how I feel about it. So anyway, see, I told you we would talk about some theories because we have to talk about them as an example. So, like I said, people have given up on learning the truth. They're fine with whatever they read. They seem like, oh, so-and-so said this, that's good enough for me, blah. The CIA had a whisper campaign in 1967 saying that the shooter was probably hired by Lyndon B. Johnson so he could become president. So Johnson was Kennedy's vice president, right?
Yes.
So on the surface, the term conspiracy theory, it seems to just refer to speculation about secret plans and plots. That it doesn't seem to, it seems rather benign, like, well, I think this happened, this is my conjecture. But when you apply it to the political world, it's very different. Say something?
Well, I was just going to say that, the problem with I see with conspiracy theories not going away is you start adding up the numbers. First off, like, for example, in the JFK thing, Lyndon B. Johnson was not a big fan of JFK.
But he was his own
vice president. But in order to capture the South in the election, they needed a strong Southerner that could handle the South and bring in that vote. Because Southerners were reluctant to put JFK into the presidency. So they needed somebody that had the experience of LBJ.
LBJ.
Yeah, sorry, I had to think about that for a second.
There not places in Dallas that's named after both Kennedy and LBJ?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you have things, you're starting off a relationship that was not copacetic, and he's not the only one. You have the mob and JFK's brother, Robert, who was the attorney for the United States, going after the mob, so they weren't very happy with JFK. Mm-hmm. So,
Also, I've also read another conspiracy theory is they took Kennedy out because of disclosure. He was going to say, there you go.
So, as what I was thinking, back to my main point was that you have this buildup of just different things. Like, okay, well, I could see how he would, like, for example, LBJ, didn't like it, JFK, wanted to get in there and be the president and do his own thing. And
so you're saying it's plausible that he could have been behind it.
That is the problem with conspiracy theories. There are situations that, yeah, that's possible. I mean, and then you take into the fact that these documents that weren't completely released is because supposedly there were still people that are alive
that
now.
Might be implicated
exactly.
Or have their feelings hurt or something.
That was the whole reason why the documents were sealed for a time.
Yeah, but I think they're still using that excuse for some reason. I don't know what it is, but because we're talking about our government, we're talking about politics.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a conspiracy theory about that, it's very different from saying, I think celebrities are reptilians. That's a whole. Apparently, these are different levels, and I'll explain why in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're saying the problem with political conspiracies is they often shift the focus away from the truth. People get bogged down on this one or two details. Like, you notice how we're all focused on, is there one shooters or two shooters or three shooters? But the thing is, who cares how many shooters? The government plotted this. That's who is behind the plot to assassinate him. It wasn't Oswald. I think Oswald was a patsy. And it wasn't Jack Ruby. I think he was another patsy. And then, like, the first conspiracy theory, I think the first legit one would be the magic bullet theory, which is a conspiracy theory.
Right.
Questions about how many bullet holes, the trajectory of the bullet, and then you got in, well, it couldn't have been a single gunman, but I think there's a lot of muddled data that's got passed down in history.
How a bullet could zigzag the way it did, and yes.
They don't match up if it's just one shooter, and the explanation is so ludicrous it made the plausibility of conspiracy theories doubtful from the beginning. So, the thing is, though, government conspiracies do happen, as we've seen and we know, and they are real. So, if I figure out their plot and say, here's what I believed happened, and I'm correct, but I don't have the evidence, and it's not out there in the real world, I get labeled a tinfoil hat wearing weirdo for believing a conspiracy, and that is an insult to me. So you get this negativity that invalidates your suspicion for political conspiracies in turn. The Kennedy assassination, Watergate, Iran-Contra, and Iraq-Gate, those were all scandals that had these theories around it, and we had to wait for the evidence to come out and say, yep, turns out they were true. So the prevailing belief is big political scandals and conspiracies always get found out, and anything that's worse than what's gone before will be discovered. Well, that is a adorably naive statement. It's like, whatever terrible thing they're plotting, we'll eventually find it out, I guess, after all the damage has been done. Let me read you this quote. United States cannot keep secrets, and plots in high office will always be found out. They say this is especially true of the kinds of crimes alleged by conspiracy theories, including the assassination of President Kennedy and facilitation of the terrorist attacks of 9/11. In their view, if crimes of Watergate and other scandals were uncovered, then surely so would offenses that are much more egregious. By implication, theories that have remained substantiated by the government must be untrue. So they're saying, we find it all out eventually.
Over time, yes.
Okay, I don't think that's...
I think it's, actually what I would look at that is that, the conspirators, while alive, have a grip on the truth, and as they age and die off, that grip releases, and why we eventually find out the truth.
You gotta wait for people who are hiding it to die off, huh?
Basically, yes.
Well, so does this mean as long as no one bothers to investigate these theories, all conspiracy theories are untrue?
No, I think that, you find out the truth. Like, for example, a guy goes into his attic and because his father passes away, and discovers some kind of case or thing in the attic.
Sounds like the plot of The Final Sacrifice.
And you find out that there's all this documentation that's
the plot of Final Sacrifice.
And so that's out there. You know, that's we've seen that happen before.
Yeah, sure.
Where the truth comes out randomly because someone has passed on, and somebody goes into an attic and finds this information out.
How are we doing on time? Because I'm
we're at 50 minutes, so that means...
Okay, so if this is the reason conspiracy theories are seen as bizarre because they're unsubstantiated and I guess they go against what's the official party line or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So belief of assertion without evidence is rather a romanticized view of our government, which I think is true. Now, this book I reviewed cited the Manhattan Project as a secret that didn't come out until the bomb was dropped. Tens of thousands of people were involved in the project, and it never leaked. So we can keep secrets. We can.
Mm-hmm.
The government is capable of keeping secrets and not having them leak out if they don't wish it. Even Truman didn't know about the Manhattan Project until he had been president for a week.
Yep.
So that thing is, we'll find out eventually, because somebody will talk and it'll link and like, no. They can keep things quiet. Secrets aren't exposed because someone talks. Despite what the public thinks here, most secrets or conspiracies come to light because it is fortuitous, it's been planned, meaning, or because of some stupid accident. That's usually what it is. It's just dumb luck. And they cite wiretapping in the Watergate scandal where one of the operatives failed to remove just a little strip of tape that they put on the door to prevent it from relocking after it had been picked. That was sloppy execution, and they got found out.
Mm-hmm.
The Iran-Contra conspiracy was exposed because the plane carrying the CIA agent crashed in the jungles of Nicaragua, and the agent was captured alive. That's how those two leaked. But most plots get exposed because of accidents and errors, and no one talks until they're caught.
Well, this goes back into like secrets, like during the war, the old phrase "loose lips sink ships." So just saying something, can expose. It could be a casual conversation, and it exposes what's going on.
I smell bacon. I think I'm starting to melt.
It is cooler in here.
It's a little cooler. You'll stop me if I need to be stopped.
You get about 3 more minutes.
Okay,
here.
well, so conspiracy theories get deemed implausible sometimes because the evidence isn't there, or it is there, but people will overlook it, and instead the theory will have to rely on speculation and supposition. Now, that's the kind of conspiracy we know and love, the one that's speculative and we just suppose this happened. Now, there's some other definitions that don't quite fit here, where it says a conspiracy theory is just a theory that traces important events to secret nefarious cabal. A conspiracy theory is fears of non-existent conspiracies. I don't know where they're getting that from. Conspiracy theory is an explanation of important events as a result of coordinated scheming by mysterious forces that try to control worldly affairs. That's really specific, because that doesn't cover all types of conspiracy theories. It's the conviction that a secret, omnipotent individual or group controls the political and social order or some part thereof. That doesn't cover it all. It's the belief that an organization made up of individuals or groups was or is acting covertly to achieve some malevolent end. An effort to explain some event or practice by reference to the machinations of powerful people who attempt to conceal their role until their aims are accomplished. So we've got a ton of meaning behind this 2-word term.
Mm-hmm.
And they all fit, and then at one point, and they all don't fit at one point, depending on what the theory is. They all make the term sound like rampant paranoia. So critics of conspiracy, this is what they say, critics of conspiracy theorizing continue to arrive at an unworkable definition because they're trying to identify a way of thinking about political intrigue that is irrational, whereas in reality there's nothing inherently irrational about suspicion directed at powerful persons. So we can't come to an agreement because, especially over conspiracies about politics and government, because they're saying that they're all irrational. All conspiracy theories about government and politics are rational, but there's nothing irrational about doubting your government.
And on that note, we'll be right back after this.
Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
Hey, Solana!
What?
If Spaceboy Universe was cheese, would you eat it? Come on now, it's a simple question.
Maybe?
SpaceboyUniverse.com.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Sir Lon.
Well, Sir Lana, this is a fascinating topic that we're dealing with, and my only concern is that I hope YouTube doesn't ban this particular episode because we have conspiracy theory in the title.
It will be interesting to... let's wait a week. Then here's what you and I should do. Don't log in to Google or YouTube. Go to YouTube and look for it. Type it in, research, and see what happens.
Okay.
So,
but if you want to continue on where you left off.
Got the timer running.
Good.
The problem is I may have to follow you. So, when it comes to conspiracy theory, here's what I think. You've got to take it by a case-by-case basis when you're trying to look at what's legit, what's not, what's way out there. So, the nature of an allegation of a conspiracy theory is it has to do with the evidence for and against it. But what we have is all conspiracy is assumed false until it's been verified by some official authority, like, government. Not the most trustworthy source, I say. But, hold on, let me turn you back here. Anyway, there's this journalist called David Aaronovitch. He suggests that the negative conspiracy theories that we have should be defined as those that are unnecessarily complicated and sinister. So I guess we have to figure out what is a negative conspiracy. And I think this is the version, the meaning that stuck, the meaning of conspiracy theory. Something that's unnecessarily complicated and sinister. But I don't think that applies to every single conspiracy theory. And again, it's a case-by-case basis. We have to check them all out first. So this guy also says conspiracy theory is the attribution of a secret action to or on a party that might far more reasonably be explained as less covert and less complicated action of another. So he's saying a conspiracy theory is something convoluted and secret that probably has a reasonable, less complicated explanation, which I don't think is true. So using his definition, we would dismiss as an unreasonable conspiracy theory the suspicion that the Watergate break-in was an act of political espionage rather than a mere bungled burglary. So he says his definition would be like, oh, this is just somebody attempting to steal equipment, not Nixon trying to plot something to take someone out, which is not what happened. Here's the one I do like. Historian Catherine Olmsted said, a conspiracy occurs when two or more people collude to abuse power or break the law. A conspiracy theory is a proposal about a conspiracy that may or may not be true, and it has not been proven. I think that's the most logical meaning that we've got, and it doesn't make any wild suppositions or accusations. It's not suggesting that a conspiracy theory comes from a sense of paranoia, which is the other ones I think suppose that, excuse me, that there's a sense of paranoia behind it, like it's an untrustworthy idea, conspiracy theory. So that's my point right here. This is the reason I was sort of motivated to do this topic, is because I don't think you're crazy for believing a theory. I don't think you're crazy for trying to figure something out on your own and say, well, here's what I think happened. I think that's your right. And I don't care what country you live in. I think it's your right to question and wonder and ponder and try to figure things out and offer an explanation. And then until the evidence comes out, it'd be nice if you would agree with it. But again, consider the source. Maybe the evidence is manufactured. It's just a spiral going down of like, who can you trust? So, and again, that's where media literacy comes into play, and we'll probably touch on that in a moment. So, if I want to speculate how I think the Kennedy assassination went down. For me, it's all just conjecture. I'm not actually conspiring. I'm not actually believing in something that's going to unravel the fabric of my society, and I'll explain that in a minute. I'm just offering a proposal of what happened. I'm not trying to, down with the government, although I do think that was the government's fault. So Olmsted gives us this really clear definition that separates fact from paranoia. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It allows for some crazy conjectures to be true, as well as ones that are more based on rationality. So everything we've just discussed before gives us the term and the air of paranoia till we get to her definition. And the reason it's all been weird up until now, again, remember, we can thank the CIA for that, right? Well, turns out not entirely. Sure, they created it, and then they also created the propaganda that you're insane for thinking anything other than what we've told you. But that was the 60s, late 60s. Why have we had this weird connotation with it up until now? Well, let me tell you about the further problems I have with all these different definitions. So, for those of us who deny conspiracy right out of hand, the critics have also been unable to come up with a solid definition of the term until Olmsted, at least. But I don't know that hers has been the one that's adopted. So we need that term. We need a definition that would accurately differentiate irrational conspiratorial suspicions from reasonable beliefs. And I think Olmsted's does this. But so we don't have a way to discern the ramblings of a whack job from a reasonable belief. Well, it's up to you. We just get the term conspiracy theory and whatever blanket meanings. But the term has become about a mechanism of social control. And I know that doesn't make any sense to you, but I'm going to try to explain it. So it throws suspicion on the person who voices a theory or a reasonable doubt about an event or something that happened. And like, well, sure, this happened, but I don't know if that's true. Like 9/11 was an inside job. There was more than one shooter of the Kennedy case. So if you have these things, you get perceived a certain way. And the reason that is, it's a mechanism of social control because the CIA set it up that way. But it's stuck. You get labeled a nutcase. You can even present your well-reasoned counter-argument. They will present you with a straitjacket. So voicing suspicions of crimes in high places means you are the enemy of reason. If you speculate, you're now subject to ridicule. And that's kind of how I felt like it's been for the last, or how long it's been, since the 60s. And I think that's kind of where we're at with the term conspiracy theory, is if you offer a different explanation and it's labeled as a conspiracy theory, there's something wrong with you. Now, why is the CIA so successful? They did what they did during the Kennedy assassination to set up the term conspiracy theory and the weird connotation of, if you don't believe what we say, it's a conspiracy theory and we should dismiss you out of hand. Well, you can thank these guys, Beard, Popper, and Strauss. No, that's not a law firm. So, for a while, we had historian Charles Beard on our side, which means mine. Beard opposed the U.S. getting involved in World War II. So that right away, that kind of labeled him as an outsider, according to our government at that time. He wrote about how various elites conspired in shaping American policy for their benefit. I don't doubt that. So that's a kind of conspiracy right there. So Beard took the view that freedom of speech and inquiry fuels progress in society. It's good to question your government. It creates, dialogue. Now, of course, this is pre-social media era, of course. This is the 40s and 50s. Beard wanted to expose an anti-democratic intrigues in American politics. So he was one of the good guys. He was trying to out the stuff that needed to be outed. Well, of course, this is the 40s. It's not a popular view. This is going into World War II. So anytime he wrote about this, his writings were overlooked. So turns out the CIA created it and gave it a bad rap. Well, it continues on in the 40s, 50s. Before conspiracy theory was ridiculed in public, it actually came into question during the early years of the Cold War. Now, this is after World War I and II. Now we're in the coming up to the Kennedy era, right? Well, these two misguided fellows, Karl Popper and Leo Strauss, were two European philosophers in the 1940s, 50s, and they kind of messed up things for us when it comes to conspiracy theory. They picked up where the CIA left off, I think. Popper had some odd notions about conspiracy theories. He thought that, in his words, conspiracy theories are modern variants of ancient superstitions and 19th century social prejudices, and thus they are rooted in irrationality and paranoia and are the seeds of authoritarian political movements. Pompous, isn't it? Pompous Popper. So conspiratorial beliefs are as dangerous to society as Nazism. So if I believe in a multiple shooter theory, I need to be taken away because I'm going to tear apart the fabric of society. But that's nothing. Wait till you hear what Leo Strauss believed. Now these are social scientists. Strauss believed that elite conspiracies were necessary and beneficial. It's a defense against totalitarianism. So he went the opposite way. Popper says it's bad to question and put forth your own ideas, whereas Strauss says it's good. But Strauss's problem with conspiracy theory was some theories could be true, and that's disruptive to society. Well, if my government plots to assassinate a president, yeah, that's disruptive to society, and I believe that happened, but they're saying, oh, no, we didn't do that. So my belief is disruptive to society. That's where I started having a mental breakdown during this research. So elites needed to suppress or undercut unauthorized investigation of suspected conspiracies. In Strauss's belief, then this is what they did. The CIA undercut all these conspiracy theories and made us look like wingnuts. And so we go, and maybe I'm thinking this is where the CIA got the idea to do it. It was from Leo Strauss. I don't have that confirmed, but this is just me connecting dots that may or may not need to be connected. So Popper and Strauss said full disclosure about such matters as, secret plots could unleash distrust, intolerance, and authoritarian. Oh God, what is this word? Let's just say, dictatorships in liberal societies. But Popper said only because theories were false, whereas Strauss says some theories are these true. Either way, false and true conspiracy theories are disruptive to society. So if you put forth a theory on how or something or why something went down, it rips apart the fabric of your society, and you really need to keep your mouth shut because you don't know what you're talking about. That's what I get from Leo Strauss and Karl Popper. So the thing is, Popper and Strauss were so dadgum popular, they were influential, and they influenced public view of conspiracy theory for decades. And I think this is the root of why we still have this pejorative connotation when someone says the term conspiracy theory. So you can think the CIA, Karl Popper, and Leo Strauss. Nobody gets a Christmas card. Now back to Charles Beard, the champion. Charles Beard all but vanished into obscurity with his notions, but for some reason, Strauss and Popper's ways of thinking stuck. Wonder why. So Popper ranks as one of the founders of modern liberal thought and a movement called, you're going to love this, Space Boy, neoliberalism. And I won't even get into that because that'll take us off on tangents, we don't need to get into. So these three men, Beard, Popper, and Strauss, were referring to conspiracy theories, but they all had different meanings to each man. It's almost like they weren't talking about the same thing. Beard's definition said that conspiracy theories were specific actions by identifiable persons and groups that result in indefinite advantages for the groups in law or political institutions. So he says, you have a conspiracy theory by people, we'll find out who they are, or we don't know who they are, and they do stuff for their own advantage, or they're doing it on behalf of people in the law or in some political institution. Well, that's a narrow definition. I don't think it covers everything. So when Popper refers to conspiracy theory, he means a superstitious-like belief that large societal calamities are caused by people from economic classes, races, ethnic groups, etc. He terms it as noble lies instead of conspiracy theory, whereas Strauss saw conspiracy theory as the dastardly truth. But both of those guys wanted us to shut up about it, I think. That's what I took from it. I could be wrong. I don't know. I was upset at the time because I was getting infuriated. So we've got these three different philosophies about conspiracy theories that came out between World War I and the Cold War, right? And we aren't even to the 60s quite yet. Now, again, the book chapters I had downloaded to review, Conspiracy in America, points out those who engage in the topic of conspiracy beliefs should be theoretically self-aware and open to disclosure about the implications of competing premises. Well, let me explain that in plain English. We're talking about conspiracy theories. You know, you and I go and have a conversation together about it. They're saying we need to be self-aware and open to discourse, a little back and forth. And if you have a different opinion about it than I do, I need to listen to you. I don't have to believe you, but I need to at least listen to you and try to come back with, healthy discourse. But unfortunately, in our new butthurt culture, no one is that self-aware. No one can have an intelligent argument about differing ideas about anything. And if you don't believe this, then you're not on social media. But again, we're in the 40s and 50s, and now we're moving into the 60s, and you've got the CIA and the assassination of JFK. And that's why we just dismiss conspiracy theory as ridiculous and never stop to consider that some of these theories may be true. I'm hoping that that is changing now. I'm not trying to say that this broadcast will help, but I want us to have these conversations without, throwing your toys down and going home. So I've got a little time. I'm going to get into the term as we have it today in modern day use. So when you hear the term conspiracy theory, what do you think? What do you feel? What's your gut reaction? Do you have one, Spaceboy?
When I hear conspiracy theory?
No, when you hear the words conspiracy theory, what snaps into your mind?
Alex Jones.
Oh, well, that's very relevant. That's very relevant. Because he talked about him, or he is one. I mean, what is the reason?
I think it's because he has covered different conspiracy theories, and so he pops in my mind. But
he's supposed to be on Joe Rogan, or he already is.
He already was.
Okay,
I've been meaning to follow up on that one.
So when you hear the words, I think most people think of it in this term. It's a term for outlandish ideas. Mm-hmm. Conspiracy theories about the mafia, let's say, are considered to be fine for some reason. But conspiracy theories about the president and the CIA are thought to be ludicrous and paranoid. Boy, the CIA did a great job, didn't they? This is why conspiracy theory label is so dangerous as a principle for regulating political speech. It equates intellectual nonconformity with irrationality and seeks to enforce conformity in the name of reason, civility, and democracy. This is what the CIA set up. You question us, you're a wingnut. You're irrational. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't have any evidence. This is what happened. We told you. Now shut up. That's how I'm taking the whole JFK thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how crazy your theory is, just shut up and stop questioning your leaders. That's what I get out of that. Again, I found this other book that has a great title, Modern Conspiracy, The Importance of Being Paranoid. But, oh my God, this book was full of $5 and $10 words, and so I read some of it so you don't have to. But that book says what we call conspiracy theory derives not from merely the desire to identify a particular form of thought or cognitive style, but to discredit it. So the term conspiracy theory means you're about to be discredited, you know. So conspiracy theories are sort of in vogue right now, if you've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Now listen to this. This is what this book kind of alluded to. This book said, conspiracy theories are popular and meant to be consumed like a McDonald's hamburger, strictly for entertainment. I think that's kind of true in how it's being handled and perceived in popular media, conspiracy theories. I want to point this out because some of the people who listen to this broadcast listen to other types of broadcasts, and they'll perk up their ears when they hear this. This same book pointed out this example. This is about David Icke. They said David Icke can sell out Wembley Arena for 11 hours to talk about reptilians, shapeshifters, indivisible light, and mind parasites, yet no one would show up to see someone like Anthony Giddens. Who's Anthony Giddens? I didn't know this. I had to go look it up. I had to go separately and Google him, or DuckDuckGo him. Giddens is a sociologist known for his theory of structuration and holistic view of modern societies. Don't ask me to explain it. I didn't bother. No one would even listen to that guy for 11 minutes, this book said, and Giddens is an institutionally approved official knowledge when it comes to society. That may be true because, one, it sounds boring, and two, well, David Icke's subject matter is crazy and exciting. That's why. Not every theory is about a secret plot. Not everything is about a secret government plot. The conspiracy theory we know and love, the one with a bad reputation, are counter theories. Theories that offer an opposition to the official accounts of suspicious events like the assassination of JFK. Again, the popular ones that are out there, these counter theories, are about things like the assassination of John and Robert Kennedy. Sometimes we forget that Robert was assassinated too. Mm-hmm. Martin Luther King Jr., the October surprise of 1980, the defense failures of 9/11, and the anthrax letter attacks of 2001. I think people offered counter theories that are fairly rational, but nobody was having it, right? The counter arguments to those events is that the official accounts ignore important evidence, anomalies, and inconsistencies. So think about 9/11. They're saying, oh, you know, about the steel doesn't melt at this tunnel. These towers collapse just too perfectly, and you know, you think all the little nitpicky arguments there,
right?
You know, that's what they're talking about. Counter theories to the official report. So they say official accounts biased to exonerate public officials. So they give you the official story so these guys don't get in trouble for it, right? So the conspiracy theory label when it comes to public discourse should not disparage conspiratorial thinking or analysis in general. That's what I'm saying. If I offer a theory, it should just be a theory, not a conspiracy theory. It's just a theory.
Right.
And I shouldn't be crucified for it. I mean, but that's not the world we live in, unfortunately. So again, if I learn about something that went down and then I give my own theory about how or why it happened, why am I crazy? If I think there were multiple shooters for JFK, or if I think 9/11 was an inside job, why am I crazy? Again, I'm pointing a finger back to CIA. So when I'm reading that book chapter, The Importance of Being Paranoid, yeah, that's a cool book name, and it's got funny section titles and chapter titles, but this book, again, chocked full of dense academic $5 and $10 words, and this thing gets deep, deep, deep into philosophy, like really deep. Now, what I did not expect to find in this book was reference to Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation. I'm thinking, Spaceboy, you and I have got to read this book. Why was I shocked? Because this book gets some screen time in the movie The Matrix. And the whole idea for The Matrix, I think, is based on that book, and that's why they showed it to us. Somehow that kind of fits. if all this is an illusion, we're living in a matrix anyway, then scandal doesn't really matter. Baudrillard said the Watergate scandal is a site of simulation where people mistakenly read in false distinction between truth and falsehood, meaning it was an illusion. It doesn't reveal a conspiracy. It just hides the workings of the simulation. That's tough to get your mind around, but I just wanted you to know what he said in regards to all this. So I can't quite wrap my head around that. Watergate wasn't a scandal. It was part of a cover-up. Well, okay, I kind of get that, but he said it serves as an illusion, and if we can uncover Watergate, then we imagine we are blind to the true destructive force of capital. Again, can't quite wrap my head around that. There is no reality in the first place, inside or outside the artificial perimeter of a scandal. So I guess don't worry about it. I don't know. I really tried to look at several sources about this reference because, you know, if you put in Baudrillard, Watergate, you do get some content. But I was really deep into a literal headache, and I just couldn't take any more time. And it had to do more about the nature of scandal than conspiracy. It had to do with scandal. So I kind of abandoned that, but I do think it would be worthwhile to read Simulacra and Simulation, given how significantly it's been placed in front of us in the Matrix and how it gets referenced. Do I need to stop for time? Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's our break, and we'll be back right after this.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
The epic battle begins this Friday. Direct from ringside at Laser Death Melt Pit. Bot versus Bot in Galaxy's 2-ton weight championship, where your challenger, Good Bot, will face the reigning champion, Bad Bot.
You're terminated.
Reserve seating starting at $30. 2-drink minimum, where ladies don't get in free. This is an SBU production.
You're listening to Spaceboy Universe.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
All right, we're back.
Hey, so just wanted to give you a background. When I was researching this topic, I have access to academic sources, so I try to use those for credibility. But if you're of that belief that, well, you're just looking at stuff that was spoon-fed to you by a system, there's two ways of looking at it. But I did look at academic journals, which are individuals who submit their articles to an academic journal. Books, I did look at various websites. I like looking at things that are credible according to whatever authority, and things that are way out there, because I want to see the spectrum of credibility versus things that are not credible. Because I like to present the findings. You've got to make it, again, the show, you've got to make up your own mind, but I want to present to you where it all came from, because all that stuff is factual and can be looked up. So I think that conspiracy theories are just a way to work out getting to the truth. Some of them are crazy sounding, yes, but who knows? You may find out that everybody is a reptilian, like David Icke said. Who knows? I don't know. So sometimes we get caught up in an explanation of how something happened. We lose sight of the bigger picture. And again, I keep citing JFK because that was the first really publicly visible scandal that public had access to, seeing it and speculating about it, right? So again, and I mentioned, it's not how many shooters there were, it's whether the assassination was a SCAD, which is an acronym, SCAD, SCAD, which stands for a state crime against democracy. That's the real issue, and the conspiracy theories lose that perspective. If it was a SCAD, that means it was a legit conspiracy. People conspired to murder the president. So first there was a conspiracy, and then there are the conspiracy theories about the conspiracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how all this gets born. Suspicion starts to point to the vice president, and then, here we are today with all these theories. Oh, by the way, when I was researching all this, check this out. I learned at the time it was not a federal crime to murder a president in 1963. But it was against Texas state law where he was murdered, JFK. So it's now a federal crime to murder a president. Isn't that crazy? I have no idea. So, when I was researching, when I was researching this, I did try to go to different things, but of course I have time constraints. I went to this site called wanttoknow.info. That's WANTTOKNOW.info. Very interesting site. I didn't have a whole lot of time to get deep into it, but how they present ideas and information really caught my attention. On their landing page, they say they do not use the term conspiracy theory on purpose because it still has that janky connotation we've been talking about. They say instead they have found a way to convey information to just present reliable, verifiable information that does not overtax anyone's belief system. And I stopped there for a minute and went, well, crap, this website should run for president. So this site goes on to say, people cannot handle too much disturbing information at once. I'm like, okay, where's your findings on that? So instead, they will present you with a small chunk of conspiracy that can be easily digested. So they're going to spoon feed us this stuff? Okay. Honestly, I'm not making fun of this site because I didn't have time to dig deep. It might be a good site for this type of thing. I don't know. But it just sounds like they're trying to be a little too careful, trying to help us not step on any landmines. It's an interesting approach. they said they'll even email you small chunks of information so you don't get overwhelmed. And I'm like, who are these people? Who's their target audience here? Really interesting way to try to present theories, you know. But here's where the meat and potatoes of this show is right now. Here's this next section, and it's called The Media's Role in Conspiracy Theories. Get out your punching bags, because that's what I want to do, and my headache is raging. It is a little cooler in here, by the way, Space Boy, so kudos on that. And I guess if you hear that in the background, that's fans and things going to try to keep us cool. So I think there are good conspiracy theories, there are some bad conspiracy theories, and we've got to figure out the difference on our own, right? Meaning some come from sound reasoning and some evidence that you can find. Others are, they're kind of wacky. I get that. And yes, the media is partly to blame, but are they just doing what they're told? But they stir up a lot of stuff, and the reason I kept talking about those two things in the news, I like the MoMA hoax, is they're complicit in this. I don't know if they're just doing sensational news or they're doing their part to say, hey, be aware, this is this thing going around, it's not real, it's not viral, you need to sit down and have conversations with your gullible people in your family, if you know who they are. I don't know that that's happening. That would be a responsible approach, but I don't think that's what media does. So, I do think most of the time, your local news station, your CNNs, your worldwide news, get their information from whatever political entity is in charge. Like, whoa, wait a minute, a conspiracy theory about a show about conspiracy theories? Oh my God. So, here's this quote. Substantial control of the media is almost always an absolute prerequisite for any successful conspiracy. I think that's true. The greater the degree of control, the better. So, when weighing in on the plausibility of any conspiracy, the first matter is to investigate who controls the local media and to what extent. That's a very good question to ask, always, for any reason. So imagine if you're living in China, which is not the most open of societies, and you put forth a conspiracy theory of your own, which may be well-founded and grounded, and you point to evidence, and then your social credit goes down and you can't go visit your grandma because they won't give you a ticket to get on the train. That's why, those are these dots I'm connecting. And I wanted you to pay attention to that story because we could be next. And you're thinking, oh, that's a crazy theory, but well, you know, I feel safe right now. So when we talk about media here, I'm talking about all media, not just your local news, TV broadcast. I'm talking about news. I'm talking about social media, internet websites, cable and satellite TV, all media, radio broadcasts. Uh-oh. Now, social media and websites do get a bad rap when it comes to this because it's easy and convenient to share information, any kind of information, whether it's credible or not. And this is where we are in this day and age. Now, this is what really set me off. Let me read this quote to you. I read this. Personal psychological needs for consistency and control often motivate the reasoning that can lead individuals to endorse misinformation and conspiracy theories. Okay, now did you catch that? They lumped misinformation and conspiracy theory together like conspiracy theory is this really awful thing that's destroying the fabric of our society, you know. So we're sharing all this stuff because of some weird underlying psychological need I call bullcrap. I think we do it because some of us are undereducated, and two, it's fun to believe in shock value things.
Well, I think that the theories are a good example of critical thinking that is lacking in America right now. Is that I really get the sense that they're trying to dumb down the public so that they can, take things away from us.
You have a theory about theories.
Yeah. So, and that's what's frustrating is that, this goes back to how my thing about the. Hold on, it'll come to me. The theory about the net neutrality.
Yes.
And how my stance has been, hey, it's their company, let them do whatever, and then at some point, the pig is going to squeal. You know what I'm saying? At some point, in other words, people are going to get all riled up because they lose a certain amount of freedoms that they've become accustomed to, and so these multimedia companies that like YouTube, Twitter,
we'll talk about that.
Facebook.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm ready to get into that. So.
Yeah, that is like you can feel yourself ramping up, don't you? So, and that little thing I just read about the psychological need, that comes from an academic journal published in an academic article published in an academic journal. So that might be part of the reason I went off, my rocker. So they're saying unfounded information and wild theories are more easily understood because it fits in with your pre-existing beliefs. It fits in with your own narrative. And I was just like, man, they're really trying to bury any usefulness a conspiracy theory may have here by this stuff. That might be true, and I'll show you why here in a minute. Yet this same article turns around and says this. Individuals with higher levels of literacy are better positioned to navigate the endless flow of media messages and to become more engaged, empowered, and critical news consumers. Cough, cough. Meaning, if you're well-read, well-educated, you've got the sensibility to discern things on your own, figure stuff out on your own, to question, and you won't be taken over or believe something crazy and wild. But I don't know if your cousin Merle shares something on social media and it's ludicrous, but you kind of like it, you're going to share that, and it may not be true, and you may not care if it is because you think it's funny. That's how this stuff gets passed around. And what I don't like about that statement is saying, well, if you're stupid, you'll believe anything. That's what it's not saying. Well, that bugs me too.
It's like P.T. Barnum said, there's a sucker born every second. So,
yeah. But my problem is that may well be true, but I don't feel like it's media's job to be my mommy and daddy about it. Go ahead, present the news, and I'll make up my own mind, but people can't do that in this modern culture. That's the problem, and there's no solution other than media literacy, but the problem with media literacy is who's teaching it. Guy, you got to question everything, dude.
Yes, you do.
Overall, the endorsement of conspiracy theories is a problem for a self-governing democratic society. Yes. Where individuals are asked to make informed decisions, the spread of misinformation runs counter to these goals. Yes, that's true. Endorsing a wacky theory will get spread all over social media, and of course you have to figure it out on your own. So I say share whatever you want. I'll make up my own mind, but if the masses believe in it, then what do you do? So you see, that's how you can see the event horizon of the apocalypse. I don't know what to tell you. There's just no good news there. So a country or society like ours that is self-governing and democratic, as we think, so we as individuals have to make our own decisions, but if these are not informed decisions, meaning you're educated on it, this is why you go around sharing your cousin's crazy Facebook posts, and this is how misinformation gets spread. But I say it kind of depends on the theory that's being shared. If everyone at the moment, they're saying if everyone in our movement is a reptilian alien, okay, statements like that are difficult to take seriously, but that is one way to easily ridicule someone,
or flat Earth.
Yeah, flat Earth. I believe in your right to believe whatever you want and say it out loud and not be silenced for it. I don't think it's destroying the fabric of society. I think stupidity is destroying the fabric of society. All right? But the thing is, stupid people have been with us since the dawn of time, and yet we're still here. Again, now, referring back to that academic article on media literacy and conspiracy theory endorsement, it says conspiracy theory is based on misinformation and biased opinions. I don't think that's true. I'm having a hard time with that statement. If I believe in the multiple gunman theory of the JFK shooting, they're saying it's because I'm biased. I have a need to believe it, so it will be the truth, and it fits in with my personal narrative. This is my psychological need. It's my personal truth. It's not the actual truth. That's jaw-droppingly idiotic to me. So they go on to say that conspiracy theory is based on misinformation, false beliefs. So how can we make informed decisions about the news media if everything else we read is false and misinformed? Now that, I'll give some credence to that. How do you tell if the media is telling the truth? I don't think you can know. So,
well, it's always been my perspective when it comes to the news is to watch it all, not just tune into one, channel. Tune into what everybody's saying to get and boil it down in a crucible, and whatever's left, it's got to be some kind of truth.
Yeah, but nobody is as vigilant as you are about trying to find the truth. As I said earlier in this broadcast, no one cares about the truth anymore. Or if whatever they're told, they don't bother to investigate it. They're like, okay, that's what's happening.
Well, then that's their own damn fault.
Right, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah. But sites like Google, YouTube, blah, 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 are trying to fix that for us. I'll get into that in a minute. So this scholar who is in political communication, her name is Kelly Garrett, said, research into misperception, rumor, and conspiracy theory suggests that even reasonable individuals can reach conclusions that don't align with the best available evidence. So if you perceive me as a reasonable individual, if I think I'm a reasonable individual, even I can be a sucker once, right?
Is that rhetorical?
What's that from? Everybody's got a right to be the sucker once. Was that from Two Mules for Sister Sarah? So we can all believe claims that have little to no evidence. So what? I'm going to cite the conspiracy theory about Russia's involvement with the 2016 U.S. election. The media seems even more hostile to Russia than it was when it was full-on communist, because Trump won.
Mm-hmm.
Accusations of tampering with elections. I thought all of that was a bunch of sour grapes because Overlord Hillary didn't win, and no one could believe Americans wouldn't want her for president. But I'm going to leave that alone and back away from it. All right.
Well, you already set the bomb off already, so
yeah. So some of the prevailing beliefs about conspiracy theory is it's mostly false. It overestimates the abilities of people who are involved to carry out these nefarious actions. The power of our own bias and beliefs is stronger than any evidence. I think this article is trying to say that. So at this point, I just wanted to punch somebody. Anybody would have done. So I think the media is guilty of this too. That's just my opinion. But there are research psychological terms that explain all this, but plus our good old friend, cognitive dissonance. And the belief in a conspiracy theory can give us cognitive closure. So if I believe in multiple shooters because it makes me feel good, and I'm like, oh, that's the explanation. Now I have closure. So I do agree with the statement: a person's political ideology, knowledge, and trust play a role in conspiracy theory endorsement, or that is your belief in a conspiracy theory.
Okay, we're at the break, so let's take it so space cadets can get a drink, reposition themselves in their comfy
Punch
chair.
A bag.
So we'll be right back after this.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lotta.
Greetings, Space Cadets. Let's see what's in the sky tonight in the Spaceboy Universe. Tonight, in the eastern sky, we have Space Boy Universe rising above the horizon in glorious splendor. And in the west, we can see Solanus Majoris, which is visible at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, just below the K28 belt. So keep your eyes on the sky and listen to Space Boy Universe.
I'm Solaris Blue Ribbon, and I'm listening to Space Boy Universe.
You are listening to Space Boy Universe. Here are your hosts, Space Boy and Sir Lana.
All right. So tonight we've been talking a little bit about what conspiracy theories are, and Sir Lana, as always, hitting it out of the ballpark. Sir Lana, are we at that moment where we're going to dive into social media? And,
yeah, I'm about to talk about YouTube.
Okay.
Like I said, I agree with that statement. I said you believe in a certain theory, because it lines up with your political leanings, your personal knowledge, and your trust in whatever. And, that's just human nature. I get that. Now, here's something that further muddies the waters, and it will build a case for media literacy. This university professor, her name is Kate Starbird, what a freaking awesome name. She studied conspiracy theories and how they propagate online. She said, people are going to different sites thinking they're getting different information, and the same information is actually being presented on different sites. While online news consumers might believe they are finding multiple sources to support their views, the reality is they're often actually reading different outlets, mediums, and even authors reporting the exact same information, often using direct excerpts from each other. So you're reading the same content over and over and over. It's just dressed up differently site to site. Sites like Twitter, unfortunately, are vulnerable to bots. Can you explain what a bot is, Spaceboy?
Well, it's a program that basically programmed to do a certain function. It can be bots can be like programmed to make comments on something, or even
it's set up and it's automatic, triggered by something. So that doesn't help things, So she said, well, if you get one person who believes in a conspiracy theory, they're more likely to believe other conspiracy theories. I have a problem with that. Now, poor YouTube. Since 2016, things just have not been good for him, despite their happy presentation of 2018 end of the year rewind video would have you believe.
That's hot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's hot. It's literally hot. Anyway, so YouTube has been trying to put out various fires for some time now, and it's only getting worse. Now, the reason this show exists right now, that we're doing this topic, is because of YouTube, and I want to see how they handle this show.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to conspiracy theory, they're going to change their algorithm to filter out or push down further in the results any content that has to do with conspiracy theory. So,
in fact, according to the Washington Post, YouTube said Thursday that it will block users from commenting on most videos that feature minors responding to reports that pedophiles are using comments to find and track.
Well, that's a separate issue,
sure,
yes. But that's an example of all the stuff that's happening to YouTube right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in regards to content like this show, I don't need YouTube to be my mommy or daddy, or my net nanny, if you remember that program. It'll be interesting to see what YouTube does, if anything, about this particular broadcast once it gets archived over there, 5 minutes after we're done?
Once again, I'm playing the devil's advocate here, is by saying that the reason why I bring that up is that, that's an example of a company exercising its right to...
They're a private company. They can do whatever they want, make
strap
their
down
own
certain
content
things.
and policies. Yeah,
and I think part of that goes into their advertising, for their videos and being ad friendly. And
exactly. Well, in that case that you mentioned, they probably are doing what they perceive as the best thing they can do. But on this one, I don't see what the problem is. It's just like they're trying to swat down so many flies. How are they going to get about the business of running YouTube? I mean...
Well, going back to this example, where YouTube started doing this algorithm, a lot of people that had channels like Pokemon channels, and in these channels that had reference to the letters CP.
Yes, because that's short for...
Child.
Yeah. So it couldn't figure out context. It was just looking for matches. So they had to go back and do, I guess, the manual review thing. So, but cadets, you'll be able to find this broadcast tomorrow if you go and search for it on YouTube, or tonight after midnight Central Standard Time. So that tells us right here, a major media company believes that conspiracy theory is not worthy content or misleading content. They're trying to combat misinformation, they will tell you. Why not instead, rather than filter content, why not promote shows like this one that seeks to educate? Why not push media literacy instead of pushing down other content, and help people learn how to discern fake from real, from conspiracy? And why are we even talking about media and social media? Because we live in a world where information is passed around and absorbed quickly and easily, and the wrong information can actually influence events or decisions of a society. And I'm going to quote anti-vaxxers here. Spaceboy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, in fact, I was just like looking at a list of YouTube videos that I think is on this verge of you're dealing with things like the fake moon landing, flat Earth, 9/11 stuff, the Illuminati, anti-vaxxers, propaganda, medical quackery, QAnon. Here's a surprise: Nikola Tesla and the pyramids. Fiat currency, global cooling, lizard people, robot overlords, time travel.
You're saying they're filtering this out or pushing it down?
These are all, these are on their eyes. They're eyeballing these.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
What gets me is, I like to read stuff about robot overlords and time travel. And
sometimes you want to get prepared.
They basically want to censor anything that's odd.
Censor. That's an interesting word. Censor. Keep that in mind, people. Is this them trying to be responsible and help out, or is this taking the opportunity to censor content? Now, I cited anti-vaxxers. If you don't know what that means, that's people who don't believe in vaccinating their children or their babies because they think it's going to cause these other long-term problems. And they say, this article I was reading quoted the anti-vaxxer movement. These are people who decided not to vaccinate despite well-documented medical evidence and research about vaccines. And even though they were presented the evidence from the most credible sources, they could not convince these people to have their children vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying the answer is to all conspiracy theory and conspiracy theory beliefs and adoption is we need to develop more skepticism. I don't dispute that. I think that some healthy skepticism is good. They say skepticism can reduce susceptibility to misinformation effects if it prompts people to question the origins of the information that may later turn out to be false. Yes, people question everything. Don't believe anything outright, even things I tell you. Find 6 different sources and see what you think after that. If you want some sources, you can borrow mine or go get your own. That's fine. If you wanted to know where I got these, because these are all downloads and some actually saved all the links. If you want to know, full disclosure, I'll give you those if you want to. Email me, Solana@spaceboyuniverse.com. Anyway, and maybe we could also learn not to be so dadgum biased, but that's really hard to overcome, personal bias. So skepticism is a good thing in some cases. Some conspiracy theories can be refuted through skepticism and de-biasing. I want to believe...
I was going to add that last month is when YouTube said it would stop recommending content that could misinform users in harmful ways, such as videos promoting a phony miracle cure or serious illness, claiming that the earth is flat, or making blatantly false claims about historical events like 9/11.
That's why I wanted you to label this show before we broadcast it deconstructing conspiracy theory.
Unfortunately, you did not say deconstructing.
I did, and you didn't like it.
No.
You didn't like it. No, I said I remember the conversation, and you just blew past it.
Let's agree to disagree on this.
Well, I want to believe that...
Because I think that's a conspiracy theory.
I kind of hope this show pisses off somebody.
I don't.
Like YouTube or something.
It's hard enough to keep all this social media together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I get that too, but interesting. 1 second.
Anyway, my train of thought went on that, but the conspiracy videos continue to bubble up in a great seething mass of moving pictures on YouTube. It's kind of like they can't beat it with a stick to kill it because there's so much.
You can't swat it down. You cut one head off, 2 more appear. The Hydra.
Yeah, so it's kind of like tying into many young people have absorbed a YouTube-centric worldview, including rejecting mainstream information sources in favor of platform native creators bearing
And
secret histories.
I'll explain
and faux
why.
authoritative explanation. Oh, I can tell you right now why. Is nobody trusts the mainstream media.
Well, no, they shouldn't. But there's actually more. There's more behind that. So, okay, I'm missing something here. I think I don't have all the. There's a chunk that I just typed up at about 8 o'clock that I don't see in my notes. I kind of remember what it was, but okay. Yeah. Okay, listen to this. In 2013, a team at Cambridge University did research to examine theories and beliefs about conspiracies. What struck me about reading about it was this statement they said: we wanted to counter the standard academic narrative that conspiracy theories are beneath contempt. And I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to keep reading this. So they kind of wanted to see what makes people tick, and they didn't want to dismiss the concept out of hand. So this group does not believe the internet has had any impact at making conspiracy theories more persuasive or influential. It's just that it's easier to spread them with social media because it's instantaneous to share. But also, the time it takes to debunk them is quicker too. So as soon as you put something out, you've got 8 debunkers, right? So it's not the internet's fault. But what bothers me is I'm missing some content here, and it really upsets me. So, but if we look at Google, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those websites and social media outlets, it's not their fault. We're just using their platform. But they feel like they need to police this content for us because we won't go and investigate, we won't go question, we won't offer a counter argument that's rational, reasonable,
well, you
calm.
notice on YouTube that if you on certain videos, it comes up with a wiki about whatever that topic is. It's something new that they've done and fairly recently.
Yeah, there's not a conspiracy theory about why this chunk of data is missing from my document. I don't know what's going on.
Well, Solana, the reality is that at the scale of a YouTube, every category of content represents less than 1% of the content. But it doesn't mean a smallish number of videos can't be assembled for a vast audience. In other words, that a video can net you tons of views for people who want to see it, and some of whom are led to further into lizard person's weirdness of the fringe, meaning that they dive into the subject matter, and but why are they diving into the subject matter? Because it's fascinating and it's interesting. It's like,
oh, yes, it's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
And that's what, like I said, we consume these theories like hamburgers because they're good and they're satisfying.
Well, it's why do we watch YouTube?
Okay, so the chunk that I'm missing, I have the link where I got it from, so I brought that up. So they're saying the internet doesn't make conspiracy theories more persuasive. What it does, it compartmentalizes people, meaning we do this to ourselves. We officially come into contact with those who hold similar beliefs and views that we do. We also work as echo chambers, so that's how the internet works, especially social media. You end up somewhere everyone has the same views. Who are you following on Facebook? People who think like you? Or do you have a really diverse... I think I have a diverse group because there are people, or there was, but I know they have a very different personal outlook and belief system than I do, and I just choose to overlook some of the things they say because it's just not worth this giant break or rift it would cause. It's like, oh, well, he thinks Trump did this. I'm like, whatever, roll my eyes, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, actually, those are the ones you're related to that you can't defriend them. But we naturally gravitate to people who think like we do and will share things we believe in, so that's just natural, right? The effect is a more concentrated grouping of opinions. That's the same for everything else, not just conspiracy theories. This researcher said, I follow 800 people on Twitter and not one of them celebrated Brexit. I was an echo chamber. So this guy was for Brexit. So he talks about, so that's the one time it diverged for him. So how far can the emergence and success of today's populist movements be explained in terms of technological changes, especially social media? So technologies have made it less costly to communicate. It means it's easier to find, talk to, and organize supporters without, financial backing. So a lot of people turn to social media, including our own president, to bypass biased mainstream media. So you can look at it two ways. You could say you're sharing misinformation, well, you're doing it so you can get around the media. But they do it too. They share misinformation all the time. Or they're being told something that, whoever wants us to hear. It also demonstrates how the internet can promote polarization by making it easy for people to find information they agree with and filter out everything else. Now, here comes David Icke again.
Right.
These two researchers, Naughton and Moore, believe that most of the famous conspiracy theories, such as David Icke's theories about shape-shifting reptiles and claims, are not particularly dangerous because they don't appear to generate tangible actions or outcomes in the real world like the anti-vaxxers did. They say, in fact, conspiracy and democracy team that looked into this questioned whether these, they call it silos, effectively disable the capacity for many conspiracies to take a firm hold in our consciousness and threaten democratic process. Now, remembering Popper and Strauss saying conspiracy theories, because they're true, and the conspiracy theories, because they're false, will mess up your society and tear it apart. Well, it depends on what people do with it, if anything. So if you don't vaccinate your kids, that has a tangible outcome. If you believe in shape-shifting reptiles, that doesn't have a tangible outcome. So it's not harmful. And I guess that's what YouTube is trying to differentiate the harmful content, like you were explaining to us so nicely.
Let me interject some editorialness in this part right here. BuzzFeed. Legitimate news organization? Or
pure entertainment.
Pure entertainment. That's exactly what YouTube is. Pure entertainment. You go to YouTube, you have people that are not in the business but are creative, create their own little broadcast with YouTube. And
what, like we're doing?
Yeah, like we're doing, exactly. We've never said we're experts. We've just, our thing has been the quest for truth.
I'm an upset, concerned citizen.
and that's when I look at YouTube is like, when I turn on YouTube, yeah, sure, I've got my Star Wars and Star Trek stuff, MCU stuff, but that's entertainment. Or when the kid falls down and racks himself in the balls when he's doing a skateboard
That's what
stunt.
we're doing when we're not doing research for the shows. We're watching stuff like
Russian car crashes.
Dash cam
stuff. I mean, I guess we've gotten to a point in our lives where regular TV sucks. And so...
Well, we don't have regular TV. We don't have cable.
No, but
is that regular TV?
What I'm saying, mainstream TV is not something we watch.
No, it doesn't fulfill all the things that I need because I don't have time to look it up.
We don't. Yeah, and just a little brief 10-minute YouTube clip.
That's all the attention I can give you.
Cinnamon Toast Ken and
PewDiePie,
the Buff Pro. I mean, that's
Mean
entertainment.
Couch.
So it goes back to what I was saying about YouTube being entertaining. And if I want to look at cat videos, there's that too. There's a little something for everyone.
Well, this same research says you might think conspiracy theories cause anxiety and depression amongst us ordinary folk, and that they undermine our trust in political institutions and the people who run them. But there are already plenty of other reasons for our lack of trust apart from conspiracy theories, and ain't that the truth? So this debate about conspiracy theory goes on, but it's not a case of conspiracy theories threatening democracies. It's Such theories actually may reinforce political suspicion and prejudice. Watergate, JFK, they're not the origin of it. On the whole, I think it's fair to conclude that the scale of the threat is limited. So I think that's an interesting study, about the impact. And going back to my notes, there's a lot more to this subject, because I didn't know there were theories about conspiracy theory. I just didn't have the strength to carry on. Their notion that 9/11 was an inside job, all the way from planning to execution, how the media handled it, is just tons of conspiracy theories there. Mm-hmm. But I want to say those theories are a way to try to figure out what actually happened, because there were things that didn't add up. The media vilified Osama bin Laden immediately with no proof. Why did they do that? Why did all of them do that? Did someone tell them to do that? And who was it? Remember those constant images of Saddam Hussein that we saw during that time? Apparently, bin Laden and Hussein were enemies, like arch enemies. I didn't realize that. Yet 70% of Americans believed Hussein was involved in the World Trade Center coming down.
Mm-hmm.
So some stray thoughts. As a quote from the book Conspiracy in America that said, "Today in the United States, intelligence agencies are generally prohibited from carrying out covert actions against American citizens, but this prohibition is not always honored," meaning they're spying on us. Don't you think they're not spying on us for any reason? And that's an adorably naive statement.
Even though it's mandated that
don't mean
can't spy on us.
Don't mean jack.
No, I agree with you.
Then what was the what's that movie you watch about the guys in Russia now? It's not WikiLeaks guy, but the one who's Snowden.
Yeah, Snowden.
Snowden. Sure, they weren't spying on us. Snowden said otherwise. So then it goes on to say that the U.S. military and intelligence elites actively manipulate things as a matter of policy. So they can change it whenever they need to for whatever reasons they have. So here's what my grand sum up here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I think most of these books and articles would not come out and say. But they implied it to me. Only gullible people believe in conspiracy theories, and you can throw theories and philosophers at this all day. They said we are subject to our own bias and beliefs and will ignore hard evidence because just like we like conspiracies so much. So, for some people, that may be true. For others, like me, I don't think it's true. I've listened to David Icke for entertainment value.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'm not going to sit here and tell you.
Hold that thought, Solana. Let's take a break because I'd like to keep
Sure.
on with the conversation, and I want to get this last break of the evening out of the way. So when we come back, and we'll talk some more and do housekeeping.
Yeah.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lotta.
Get your game on Spaceboy Universe. Level up with Spaceboy Universe. No quarters, no problems. Play it at Spaceboy Universe.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
All right, we're back. It's the final 30 minutes. It's the rundown for the show.
Well, unless you've got some comments you want to make, I have some filler content.
Well, no, I just think at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that as we, continue to the future, it seems the younger generation is not using critical thinking.
Nope.
And I think that these big companies like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook are trying to come in and police social interactions because they believe that the mindset of the younger generation is not there. They're not.
Well, they're right.
Yeah.
But I think they're screwing it up for the rest of us. But I don't rely on social media for all my information. It's just I get to see it quicker there. Mm-hmm. Again, that's the point they're trying to make. So.
Well, I'm surprised in the sense that you don't really tune in the news at all to listen to any kind of news.
It's depressing. Why? When you do it and I can just get it from you. You'll tell me what's the real... I mean, you are my news filter.
I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you how it is.
No, you don't tell me what to do. You share stuff and be like, oh, okay. Now I know. You're a reliable source for me.
Believe it or not, you wouldn't think that.
I married you for news,
math,
and to kill roaches. So you've done very well. Straight A's across the board. Any more thoughts?
And to laugh at me when I'm bleeding.
That was just one time, and you haven't bled since then. So I mean, it's not like I put leeches on you to giggle.
The night is early.
What? Well, not that much early, but anyway, just sort of to fill up time. I found a list of 12 actual conspiracies that conspiracy theorists ignore, and I have not heard of a lot of these. I don't know that I'll go to all 12, but let's pick out a few. In the 1970s, Scientologists infiltrated the U.S. government. Did you ever hear about that?
No, but I'm not surprised.
Well, it's a theory that their goal was to destroy documents that made their church look bad. Operation Snow White, the Church of Scientology managed to perform the largest infiltration of the United States government in history. In all, 136 organizations, agencies, and foreign embassies were infiltrated, and hundreds of documents were destroyed. Here's another one. The space shuttle was designed to grab satellites, specifically to collect Russian satellites and bring them to Earth. One of the original plans for space shuttles was to have them pluck spy satellites out of the sky and take them to Washington for examination, then return them before anybody noticed they were missing. That's kind of out there. Although that plan never came to fruition, many shuttle class missions were classified. So, here's another one. Richard Nixon planned to kill off his worst critic. It would have happened, but his goons got busy with Watergate. So, Richard Nixon had an ongoing beef with syndicated columnist Jack Anderson, which I kind of remember when I did my research, dating back to long before he was president. So once he was in office, he had Anderson followed by the CIA, then started working out details for how to kill him off. Then he tasked G. Gordon Liddy and Howard Hunt, the guys in charge of offing Anderson, with breaking into Watergate Hotel instead. How about this one? The government dropped 300,000 mosquitoes on Georgia, the state of Georgia. If they wanted to know if yellow fever could be weaponized. This is 1955. The government wanted to study entomological warfare. They packed bombs with 300,000 mosquitoes and dropped them on the state of Georgia, and the mosquitoes weren't infected with yellow fever or anything. It was just a test to figure out the logistics. Like, we need more mosquitoes in the South. We're already dying here. So, Bayer sold unsafe medicine in Asia and Latin America. At least 100 people wound up with HIV. During the 1980s, Bayer discovered that one of their products, a blood clotting medicine designed for hemophiliacs, carried a high risk of transmitting HIV to its users, so they created a safer version for people in Europe and the U.S., but continue to sell the old stuff elsewhere. It's estimated that 100 people contracted HIV in Taiwan and Hong Kong alone. They also our military sprayed San Francisco with germs. Wonder if Dino knows about this. One man died from the supposedly harmless bacteria. The plan to study chemical warfare by releasing a cloud of S. marcinensis, I don't know what the name of that is, over San Francisco Bay in 1950. As a result, 11 people ended up in hospitals with rare urinary tract infections, and one man died. It wasn't until documents were declassified decades later that this family found out what happened. Let's see. The U.S. hired Nazis to win the space race. We already know about Project Paperclip. The military whitewashed the records to cover it up. Truman was morally opposed to hiring anyone that was complicit in the Holocaust, yet to get around that, the American military created a fake background information for its recruits, and as a result, prominent Nazis like Arthur Rudolph became key figures in our space program, even though the U.S. government knew they were responsible for tens of thousands of deaths. In the 1950s, the CIA had over 400 journalists in their pockets, so that kind of goes in with tonight's content, because of what the CIA did the next decade. They were paid to plant pro-government stories throughout the media, so why can we trust the media? You know, these weren't just, young scrubs. They were using top-level employees from 3 major networks, all 3, as well as the New York Times, Time Incorporated, and Associated Press, all not only capable of planting pro-government stories, but also to suppress anything that wasn't government-friendly. So, who do you trust, right? Mm-hmm. The government poisoned alcohol during Prohibition, and as many as 10,000 people died. Our government wanted a way to discourage people from drinking alcohol beyond the traditional arrest everyone caught with it, so they intentionally put poison in alcohols that bootleggers would resell as drinkable booze, and any politicians who were opposed to the plan were accused of being in cahoots with the criminals. So just so you think that conspiracies are all lies, they're not. That wasn't all 12. That was just like the ones that caught my eye. So that was from cracked.com, in case you're wondering.
When you get a chance, you should really do a Google image search for new space shuttle.
New space shuttle?
Yeah. I did not realize some of these things that are in the works, that are being worked on.
Whoa. Are we going to get a new space shuttle? You think?
I know.
Or are they just going to let private companies do it?
Well,
oh, it just looks sleek and smaller.
Well, you've got
it's more like an airplane.
The Diplomat, which is that one that's been going into space, and it's gone on secret. The
Boeing, has the Boeing on it.
But the
Dream Chaser.
The Dream Chaser is the one that reminds me of the Bionic Man, because it's the craft that I think they've been working on this particular craft for some time. But it's
looks a little more modern. That's all.
It does. It's very beautiful.
It's like it looks like it's all one piece. It's like it's not.
It looks more
beefy.
More cooler than the actual shuttle. It has the black.
I like the old shuttle's design, though. I mean, I still think that's a cool design, but I think there's a conspiracy about stopping the shuttle program. When they did, I think there's something I don't know what it is, but just something that don't add up there, but I don't know how to explain it.
Well, as we move forward in with the new space fleet or space command or whatever this new Department of Military is with the United States, that Donald Trump has set forth that there would be a new military Space Force. Makes you wonder if some of these concept designs, like,
I'm looking at a mock-up, I guess, of the old space shuttle like Discovery with the 2 concept designs next to it, and they're really small. Like, what can you accomplish with something that small? Because the shuttle had a giant payload bay to get things up there. So what do they need the little shuttle for?
It makes you wonder, what is the mission for the smaller shuttle?
Yeah, if they're not carrying anything, I mean, is it just food?
And I don't clearly see any kind of like, how do they connect, if they're going to connect to the Space Center or whatever, the IS.
Maybe it's got like a belly button on it or on the top or something, But isn't the ISS going to be abandoned at some point here?
At some time in the near future, yes.
Are they going to make something new, or are they just like, okay, we've done everything we wanted to do up here, let's just blow it up?
No, I think that there will always be some kind of need for an International Space Station.
To be up there?
Yes.
Again, I don't trust anyone and I question everything. Maybe that makes me the ultimate paranoia.
Just question it with boldness.
Question with boldness.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of time are we running here?
Why? How much time do you need?
No, I'm just wondering if I need to fill. I can
keep going. I'll let you know.
10 conspiracies that turned out to be true. First one, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. You know that one?
Yes.
It was a major escalator in the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, which I will cover as a topic because I don't know enough about it. So it's referred to sometimes as the USS Maddox incident. That is a destroyer, the USS Maddox, supposedly engaging 3 North Vietnamese Navy torpedo boats as part of an intelligence patrol. I remember reading about this now.
Mm-hmm.
The Maddox fired almost 300 shells. Now, good old President Lyndon B. Johnson promptly drafted the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, became his administration's legal justification for getting involved in the Vietnam War. Problem is, it never happened. So in 2005, we find out in a declassified document or study that there were no North Vietnamese naval vessels present during that incident. So what were they firing at? For all he knows, the president said it could have just been whales. So, yeah. Goes to show you they'll go to any lengths to get what they want. Then you've got the Tuskegee syphilis experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Between 1932 and 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted clinical study on rural African American men who contracted syphilis, and they never bothered to tell these men they had the transmitted disease, nor did they offer treatment, even penicillin, when it became available as a cure in the 1940s. So they were told they had bad blood. And so when World War II came around and 250 of these men registered for the draft, and only then for the first time were they informed they had syphilis, and they were still denied treatment. So by the 70s, 128 of these 399 men died of syphilis and syphilis-related complications. 40 of their wives had it. 19 of their children were born with it. So they conducted experiments about this on prisoners, soldiers, and patients of mental hospitals in Guatemala. And they actually infected them, then treated them with antibiotics. So our government is not the nicest government.
Nope.
Number 3, Project MK Ultra. I don't even need to explain that one, do I?
Nope.
CIA secret mind control experiments on U.S. citizens from 1950 to 1973. Operation Northwoods. Now this one, I didn't know this was the name for it.
Mm-hmm.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff of the U.S. military drew up and approved plans to create acts of terrorism on U.S. soil to sway the American public into supporting a war against Cuba. That could have been World War III, because you know who was with Cuba, in bed with Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, and the documents are out there. So they were going to create maybe a shooting and attribute it to Cuban, maybe like Cuban nationalists or something. Boats carrying refugees fleeing Cuba to be sunk on high seas. A wave of violent terrorism to be launched in D.C., Miami, and other places. And then frame some people for bombings they didn't commit, and planes getting hijacked. And so they plan to fabricate evidence that would implicate Fidel Castro and Cuban refugees. There was an elaborately staged incident where they were going to have a Cuban aircraft would attack and shoot down a plane full of college students. Yeah, and if you don't think they would do that today, I can't help you. So, CIA drug trafficking. I've always thought the government was involved in drug trafficking because it's profitable.
Oh, most definitely.
So during the 80s, the CIA facilitated the safe sale of cocaine to the Crips and Bloods of street gangs of Los Angeles and funneled millions of drug profits to a Latin American guerrilla army. Operation Mockingbird. Have you heard of that one? In the late 1940s, the Cold War was getting underway, so the CIA launched a top-secret project called Operation Mockingbird to buy influence and control among major media outlets. They planned to put journalists and reporters directly on the CIA payroll. Some of them claim this is still going on today. Frank Wisner, Alan Dulles, Richard Helms, and Philip Graham were planned to enlist American news organizations and journalists to become spies and propagandists. And they were going to do this with ABC, NBC, CBS, Time, Newsweek, Associated Press, United Press International, Reuters, Hearst, Ships Howard, and Copley News Service. And by the 1950s, they infiltrated the nation's businesses, media, and universities with tens of thousands of on-call operatives. So it says here, fortunately, our media is no longer lured in by corporations and governments to disseminate propaganda, disinformation. Yeah, sure. COINTELPRO, heard of that one?
Mm-hmm.
A series of clandestine, illegal FBI projects that infiltrated domestic political organizations to discredit and smear them, including critics of the Vietnam War, civil rights leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and a wide variety of activists and journals. They were going to. They included psychological warfare, slander, forged documents, false reports in the media, harassment, wrongful imprisonment, and intimidation, violence, and even assassination. And I think the tactics are even more sophisticated today. So, Operation Snow White. We just talked about this. This is the U.S. government, infiltration of the U.S. government by the Church of Scientology. Secret global economic policies. So this is the people who feared a sinister global corporatocracy. That's a new word for me. Corporatocracy. I guess that's where a corporation has their own autocracy or something. You guys told your parent, if you want to call it the New World Order or not, they're right. So in 2013, we get WikiLeaks, right? And it had the text for the entire Trans-Pacific Partnership Intellectual Property Rights chapter. It revealed closed-door regional free trade agreements being negotiated by Asia-Pacific countries, Australia, Brunei, Darussalam, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and the United States and Vietnam. So the Electronic Frontier Foundation says TTP has an extensive negative ramifications for users, freedom of speech, right to privacy and due process, and will hinder people's abilities to innovate. So when WikiLeaks revealed more of this stuff, trade services agreement, 50-country agreement that will promote unprecedented levels of privatization across the world, the agreement was essentially prevents governments from returning public services into public hands, which will dramatically affect our ability to enact environmental regulations and keep workers safe. So, and we talked about just a minute ago, the U.S. government illegally spies on us. Well, they do. We used to laugh about this, but Orwell tried to warn us in his book 1984. But NSA's already been illegally eavesdropping on us, and they're analyzing our transmissions under the idea it's a post 9/11 world. Certain liberties have to be sacrificed, right? Well, that's not true, but there's no evidence that the NSA has protected us from terrorism by listening to us. In fact, it makes us more vulnerable. Thanks to revelations about NSA and their PRISM project, we know the scope of the NSA's eavesdropping is even beyond what we originally thought. And Now, when they say the Washington Post reported, I'm like, well, now I think all media is in bed with the government, so can I trust what they say? They said 90% of data being collected by the NSA surveillance programs is from Internet users with no connection to terrorist activities. Well, that's probably true. According to ACLU, this is in clear violation of the Constitution, but what do they care about our rights, really? So... And I think I'm just done talking. My throat hurts.
Well, we got a few more minutes to go.
Well, did you learn anything, Space Boy? Or you're just zoned out for tonight?
No,
Was it a decent-ish topic show, or...
Yeah.
Not what you're expecting, or...
I guess, it was a good show. I'm sure our audience will agree that your research, as always, is impeccable, and that really the audience is wanting you more than me. And like
I said, I'd be happy to take a night off, but you won't let me do it. Where you just do the show yourself, and I could go listen in another room and be in the chat and be engaged. But you'd have to. We could do a Star Wars upset night where you could talk about Star Wars and Marvel. Because I know we're about to go see. Are we going to go see Captain Marvel? Or are we going to just sort of wait?
I think we're overdue for a movie, so we'll probably go see it.
I know where we're going on April 18th.
Funky Town?
No, we're going to Riff Tracks Live on my birthday. And we're going to see Octoman. And it's going to be horrible and wonderful.
Well, since you brought up Captain Marvel,
Go ahead.
The big stink out there has been Rotten Tomatoes scoring system.
Yes.
Recently, Rotten Tomatoes has a thing where it asks, are you going to go see this movie or are you not going to go see this? Well, the not going to go see this rating had dropped it all the way to like 29%. But then at that point...
This is before the movie's even out.
Yes,
right.
Which comes out next Friday. Basically, Rotten Tomatoes took the scoring system down off their site. And a lot of people out there, speaking of conspiracy theories, say Disney got involved and strong-armed Rotten Tomatoes to take that down.
So it's giving them a bad...
Yeah, blight in their eye, so...
That's just stupid. Again, that's more censorship, basically.
Mm-hmm. So, that is out there in the nerd universe.
I'm looking to see what backs you up on that here, looking at content.
I'm getting some of my information from Screen Rant.
Captain Marvel versus Wonder Woman. Y'all are acting the same way you did in 2017.
No.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, first off, Wonder Woman, when Gal
Gadot.
Thank you. I was going to call her Gal.
Were you going to call her Gul Dukat?
Yes.
Woo,
so,
the heat is getting to you, babe.
Unlike Brie Larson, you didn't have her going out there trash speaking and all that. And
I didn't think anything came up over her movie, though.
No, nothing did. In fact, the Wonder Woman movie had far exceeded the expectations of a lot of people. And, and I have always been pro-woman in a lot of things. What I'm against is women being, like, social justice situations and saying that that white men are the problems of why... the misogynist attitudes, and that's why they're all hating on Star Wars and Ghostbusters.
There's all white men, including, like, you, and it's not true.
No, it's not.
That's a problem you're having, it's a blanket statement.
And that's my argument, is the blanket statement is like, fudge you, because, I'm very supportive of women causes and all that, but, I shouldn't be a casualty of your propaganda to try to state that, you're just a crybaby that lives at home in your mom's basement. No, I don't think so. So, that's how I look at that, so.
No, you absolutely don't. In fact, you live in a house. Of course, it's in my name, but
yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate that.
I would more than happy for it to be in your name. Yeah, so you're a homeowner, you're a car owner, you've got a full-time job coming up, and so you don't fit that mold. So
even when I was out unemployed, I still managed to get another job to kind of supplement some income coming in. But yeah, so I guess that's why I get frustrated with the how social justice warriors have infected pulp culture in general. Mm-hmm. Pulp culture.
Oh, here you go. Rotten Tomatoes finally bans fan reviews for unreleased films to stop abuse of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Marvel wasn't named, but that had to be the reason behind it.
That's exactly who was behind the whole dang thing. So anyway, that's my I guess hit the goat.
This is want to know this too. It says here, Paul Rudd doesn't age, and we want answers. I agree. The man is not aging, but I thought that of Hugh Jackman too. Mm-hmm. But he is finally starting to show signs, although it looks just fine on him. But yeah, Paul Rudd. There's sort of like these men have these long peaks where they look the same, and then they reach some kind of threshold, and then they start going down. But he hasn't reached that yet, and it is irritating. I agree with that. Just so you know.
Okay, well, it's probably because he's so youthful, and
he's too dang happy. That's what it is.
That's the key to looking youthful.
Didn't Dave bring this up when we were on his show Saturday night? There seems to be an obsession with time travel as a story theme. Yeah. It says pop culture is obsessed with time loops, time travel, and alternate worlds. And it's a recurring theme in movies. Seeing variations of it coming up again and again, especially with Endgame coming. It's assumed the Avengers will be using quantum realm to use that time travel, and but of course it's going to be the biggest property to tackle time travel, and that's going to be the way to explain everything. But they're seeing it in everything from Star Trek Discovery to Life is Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Points out plots come up in shows like Community, which is over and done with. It was on NBC. That show was up for an award. The one where he would come in and it would be a different scenario every time somebody rolled the dice.
Mm-hmm.
It was up for some sci-fi award, and that was a brilliant episode. The Good Place, time skipping, creating different realities, but we're just wondering why does it come around and then go away, like Back to the Future, Groundhog Day, 12 Monkeys, Terminator, Doctor Who, Quantum Leap, Sliders, Fringe, Outlander, Travelers, Counterpart, Timeless, Continuum, Legends of Tomorrow. It goes back all the way to H.G. Wells,
Mm-hmm.
So wonder what the fascination is. And so it's been 70 years of time travel.
I think I could kind of sum it up according to T2, which no fate by the choices we make. I think at heart, everybody loves the idea of a do-over.
Well, you remember Community again, when we was first out. It was a show, a comedy sitcom on NBC. Remember they were talking about we're in the darkest timeline?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where people got the phrase. They think, oh, well, Trump's been elected, and so now we're in the darkest timeline. And so he put his little felt goatee on his face. I have a felt goatee at work on my corkboard. It says, in case of darkest timeline. So, again, I'm not seeing that this article posits any theory of why it's coming up again and again and again, other than maybe we're just trying to escape reality. We don't like this one. we're trying to. We live in a time where mass false memory phenomena is like.
It goes into the thing what I was saying, that people want to do over, and time travel, I guess, helps our mind work through that, where it gives us a possible reality of doing things over, when the reality is, I don't think time travel is necessarily what we think it is. I think it's more parallel universes, and that's a subject we can get into another day.
That'd be a good subject.
So, anything you want to do for housekeeping before we start wrapping this up?
Well, if I knew things, I would tell you.
Just look for a history topic in the near future on the Vietnam War. I know Solana's been wanting to cover that topic.
We need to do some pop culture thing. We haven't done any pop culture, but I guess we have to wait to go see.
You hate pop culture, so...
I don't hate pop culture. I just don't know anything about Star Wars, and I'm not interested in Star Trek Discovery or the Orville. But if you want to talk about that, I will sit here and do chat with other people.
Orville was great this past Thursday. They had a space battle, and just really, if you haven't seen the Orville, it was a two-parter, and this past Thursday was the second part, and you should definitely check it out. And on that magical note, so that Solana can stop rolling her eyes, good night, my sweet space cadets, and we will see you next Saturday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time here on the Universe. So explore with us.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Solana. Executive producer is Solana. Associate producer is Lee Ann Cordes. Music production is Spaceboy of SpaceboyMusic.com. Special thanks goes out to Lee Ann K, K28, Dino, Solars Blue Raven, Patrick Sporer, Bob and Beverly N. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. Support the universe by exploring Spaceboy Universe with Spaceboy and Solana. Sweet dreams, Space Cadets.
Hi, I'm Spaceboy.
And I'm Solana.
And you're listening to Spaceboy Universe
on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.